Hey everyone, this is Money Talks. I'm Rosie.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to be hearing from our very own Drew Moser, the Dean of Experiential Learning, on cash versus credit.
Hi, my name is Drew Moser. I'm Dean of Experiential Learning here at Taylor University. In that role, I oversee all the stuff in the student union. And I'm here to talk to you about cash versus credit. And I brought some props with me here today. This is a $10 bill. This is cash. It is finite, so if I were to spend it, it's gone. If I knew magic, I could make it disappear, but I don't. So I'm just going to put it in my pocket. So if I spent this $10, I wouldn't have it anymore. It's gone. This is a credit card. I'm going to cover up the number so you can't see. But this is a credit card. I can make a $10 purchase on this, and I still have it. I get to take it with me, and I get to take the product that I purchased. And when I do that, then I have to agree to pay for it later. And I can, oh, by the way, also buy a bunch of other things because I still get to keep this credit card. So credit, in one sense, is somewhat limitless, and it lets you do a lot of things, both good and bad, that cash doesn't. So both cash and credit hold power. They both can do things for us, but credit, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, think of credit as being the ring. With it, there is untold amounts of power, and yet it can also corrupt so quickly. So you need to think of credit as a long-term relationship. It takes a long time to build good credit, and you can very quickly damage your credit with one or two just poor choices. So we're going to talk about what it means to actually build credit. You probably have heard from older adults that it's really important to build good credit, but a lot of people don't know what that actually means. So in order for you to get approved for the really big loans in your life, whether that is a home mortgage or even if you choose to buy a car with financing, you often have to have good credit in order to qualify for that loan. And so you need to, as a young adult, build good credit. And this lets creditors, or the people willing to risk giving you their money on loan, it lets them evaluate you and see if you are worthy of their money. And you can build credit in a number of ways. The best way is by paying bills online. So if you have your cell phone bill, and if you pay those online and on time, then you build good credit. Other bills, such as your electric bill, your gas bill, internet, cable, if you pay for those things, you make sure you pay for them on time, and if they're in your name, it goes toward your good credit. You can also build credit by having a credit card, and sometimes a lot of people tell you have to have a credit card in order to build good credit. This is partially true. It is important towards your credit score if you can show that you've had a credit card and made some payments on it. But it's also super dangerous. If you have a credit card, it's very easy to abuse it and not use it well. So you have to be really careful. Just as important as building good credit is knowing what kills your credit. So if you are late on your payments for any of those bills that I mentioned, that will affect your credit score, which I'll talk about here in a minute. So you can't be late on making payments. You can't just stop paying for things. All of that will be attached to your credit score and your credit rating. So you have to be very careful to pay things on time. Now, what is a credit score? So a credit score is a 3-digit number that tells potential loaners, people who will be willing to give you money, how trustworthy you are with that money. It's calculated from this massive report that credit agencies will be able to pull on you individually, and it'll look at all those things I mentioned that impact your credit score. So it'll tell how many months you've made payments on your phone bill, on your internet bill. how many credit card payments you made, and if you paid them in full and on time. And so your credit score boils all of that down into one number that they can use. Now that's different than a credit report. So you have a credit score, which is just a number, but a credit report is all that information that I just mentioned. So there are certain businesses, banks, car dealerships, rental agencies that will be able to pull up your full report and look through and see what it is you paid for on time and for how much. So your report includes all that information of your credit history. So almost anything that you've ever used that you haven't paid cash for immediately will be in your credit report, your full report. So yeah, that's why you have to be careful and think that anything that I do with credit is going to be tracked and it's going to follow me wherever I go. Your credit report also has some basic information about you, so your name, all the places you've lived, so you can't outrun your credit report. It will find you, so if you moved to 3 different apartments in 3 different years, it'll have all that on there. It'll also have your social security number, and also it'll have the various types of credit you have used. So if you've used one of those paycheck advance places, which I don't recommend, don't ever do that, it'll have that on there. If you use a credit card, it'll have that on there. If you've taken out a loan at your bank, it'll have that on there. All of that stuff. And so all of that is used to compile your credit score. So that's the difference between a credit score and a full report. Now, a few other things. How do you check your credit score? So a lot of people think, okay, someone has this score that is attached to me. How do I see what my score is and if it's a good score or not? There are credit reporting companies, they're also called credit bureaus, that have you and your score in their database, and you can go and either pay a fee or ask or sign up with a profile and email address and be able to pull your score out. And if you go to, one place I would encourage you to go to is MyFICO, that's myfico.com. That has access to the 3 major credit bureaus that will that are the most widely used ones that companies will use to check your credit score. So you can go there, pull from 3 different agencies and compare your scores because they won't always be the same at each agency. So that's how you can check your credit score. Sometimes it costs a little bit of money to do that, but it may be worth it just to make sure that your credit score is good. Now, types of credit. So this is really important. So not all credit is the same. There's also what I would consider to be really good credit, and there's also really, really bad credit that you want to stay away from. The first that most people know about are credit cards. And this is instant credit that you can carry with you anywhere you go. And you can you can use it anytime you want virtually, as long as you're somewhere that accepts credit cards, which is almost anywhere now. So as I've mentioned before, credit cards are very, very, did I say very dangerous? They're extremely dangerous. You want to be very careful. And a lot of people don't really know how they work. They are designed to make money off of you. So they're not just designed to make your life convenient. And the way in which they make money off of you is they let you charge on the card probably more than you can afford. So let's say your credit limit is $5,000 in a given month. And you spend $4,000 of that $5,000 in a month. But you can't pay that $4,000 off when your credit card bill is due. So conveniently, the credit card company will give you a break. So they'll say you can just pay us, let's say $200, some sort of minimum payment, and don't worry about the rest for now. And that keeps that credit card open and keeps you with access to that credit. So they don't cut off the card. It's not denied when you go to stores. But the catch is that they're charging you a ton of interest on a compounding rate for every dollar that you didn't pay off. And oftentimes it's at least 10% interest. Many times it's in the teens, even into the low 20s. And the thing that happens is that when you don't pay that off, it becomes incredibly hard to pay it off because interest just keeps getting added to your outstanding balance. And so people can get in a lot of trouble with credit cards because they just get behind and they can't get caught up. So it becomes more and more difficult. So my encouragement to you would be, if you really want to use a credit card to build your credit, to go ahead and get one, but only use it for 1 or 2 smaller fixed payments a month that you know are always going to be consistent and that you will always pay off. That will allow you to build your credit without allowing or tempting you to use the card more than you should. So that's credit cards. Another type of credit are loans. Many college students are familiar with student loans. So that's one type of loan where you borrow money either from the government or from a bank or from a university in order to pay for your education. And then those loans are broken down into some that are subsidized, so you don't pay any interest on those or accrue any interest until after you graduate. Some are unsubsidized, which interest is already accruing, which is probably a terrifying thought. That's one type of loan. Another type of loan that many people are familiar with are car loans. I really don't recommend car loans because you're borrowing money to pay more money for a car that's going down in value the minute you buy it. So I always recommend paying cash for cars and just buying used. So whatever you can afford, pay cash for it. You'll own it when you leave the lot. And you won't end up paying for a car after it's broken down, which a lot of people end up doing. They're still making payments on a car even though it's broken down. Student loans, like I mentioned before, I think are a good thing as long as you're cautious and wise with them. I really view education as an investment, so I think that's an appropriate use of credit as long as you weigh the cost and plan to pay it off and know what you're getting into. Another common type of loan is a home mortgage. This is what lets you actually buy a house, or at least let the bank buy it and you begin to pay off the bank in order to own the house outright. Home mortgages are terrifying. So I remember when we bought our home, it felt like monopoly money when we were signing, because it's so much money and you are agreeing to pay it off in typically a long amount of time. So the most common type of home mortgage is a 30-year mortgage. That's where you agree to pay off the loan of the house in 30 years. That's typically on what's called a fixed rate. So a certain rate that you pay in interest to pay off for the duration of that loan. Some people, if they can get away with it, do 15-year fixed rate loans, which are a great option because then the sooner you can get out of your mortgage, the less money you're paying on interest. I also think homes, they're not quite the investment they used to be, but they're a good investment. And I think as long as you don't get house poor, meaning you borrow way too much money for a house you really can't afford, then I think they're a good use of credit. So we have a home mortgage because there's no way we'd ever be able to pay cash for our house. So we borrowed for that and are paying it off. There's also one other type of loan is a line of credit from a bank or a business loan. So if you own a business and need a little more cash in order to be able to grow or expand your business or buy equipment or that sort of thing, banks will give you a loan for that. And sometimes that can be good if it will help your business grow, make more money, but they can also be dangerous too. Because the thing about credit, this is what's important to know, is that you will always qualify for more credit than you can afford. Again, these banks, these loan agencies, their job is to make money off of us. And the way that they make money off of us is by giving us as much money as they can risk giving us so that we have to pay it back. And sometimes we have to pay it back more than we bargained for. So you always want to think not so much what can I get for a loan, but what can I truly afford? Because you'll always get more. I remember when we applied for a loan for our house, we qualified for way more than we could afford. It was ridiculous. That's all of my income would have gone towards paying off our mortgage, and we wouldn't have had money to eat or to pay other bills, that sort of thing. So don't let the banks suck you in and take more of your money than you should give them. All right, so finally, some rules for using credit. These are rules that my wife and I use when we consider when to use credit, when we don't have the cash for things. The first rule is just to use it very, very sparingly. You can get credit almost anywhere, in almost any kind. And the temptation is always to get things as instantaneously as possible. And so it's often much, much better to wait until you have the money in hand to pay for something, unless there's just no way you're going to get the cash and you can invest money that you borrow for something better. So, which brings me to my second rule. If you must use credit, use it only for things that are truly investments. So an example, that trip to the Caribbean is probably not an investment. Cars, I would say, are not an investment. They're a necessity, but they're an expense because they always cost you money. Shoes are not an investment. So to spend credit to get more and more pairs of shoes or whatever it is are not necessarily an investment. These are things you should pay cash for, or if you don't have the cash, just don't buy them. But things such as a home, things such as an education, businesses, all those things I think are appropriate uses for the right type of credit, so long as you can afford it. Another rule that I follow, when you use credit, you have to have a really confident plan to be able to pay it off quickly and confidently. So if I borrow money, I have to be sure that I know where my cash is going to come from to make those payments and to pay it off. And finally, whenever possible, pay it off early. Pay off your credit early. So an example would be my wife and I, we have a mortgage payment. So it's the same every month to help us pay off our house in 30 years. We round that up to the nearest $100 just to pay a little extra on the principal of that loan because we want to pay it off early. But just by paying an extra, $75 to $100 a month, we're shaving 7 to 10 years off of our mortgage. So it's really amazing how much you can save if you just try to pay it off early. So that's why it's really important. Again, we didn't take as much money as we qualified for, and so now we can afford to pay it off a little extra and a little early. So again, those are my rules. That's cash versus credit. Two very helpful, powerful things that we have, but very different things, and we need to be wise with them.